Your silence has become far louder than your prayers lately, and heaven is feeling every single second of that quietness. My beloved child, I need you to stop what you are doing for just a brief moment and listen very carefully to me. This message is not finding its way to you by some random accident or coincidence. I know exactly what you have been going through, and I know how hard you have been pretending to stay strong for everyone around you. I see you smiling when you are with other people, putting on a brave face so they do not worry, while silently breaking into pieces deep inside where nobody else can look. I know there have been so many heavy nights when you just lay awake, staring blankly at the ceiling, asking yourself whether anything in your entire life would ever truly change for the better. Little by little, without you even realizing what was happening, your conversations with me started becoming much shorter. Your daily prayers became weaker and less frequent. Your heart became quieter and more guarded. You stopped talking to me the way you once did, not because you stopped loving me completely or turned your back on your faith, but because the intense pain you were carrying convinced you that silence was simply safer than hope. You started to believe that if you did not expect anything good, you would not have to deal with the crushing weight of disappointment anymore. But my child, your silence is breaking my heart because I have never stopped listening for the sound of your voice. You might think that I did not notice the distance slowly growing between us over these past months, but the truth is that I noticed every single moment of it. I noticed those exhausting nights when you truly wanted to pray, when you desperately wanted to reach out to me, but your physical and emotional exhaustion won the battle instead, and you just closed your eyes in defeat. I noticed the hot tears you wiped away so quickly from your face because you were just too tired of explaining your deep pain to people who could never fully understand it anyway. I noticed how disappointment slowly and quietly changed the entire way you looked at your own future, turning your bright dreams into fearful questions. There was an earlier time in your life when you used to speak to me about absolutely everything that crossed your mind. You trusted me completely with your biggest dreams, your deepest fears, your highest hopes, and even the smallest, most ordinary details of your daily routine. But after experiencing enough heartbreak, dealing with enough rejection, enduring enough long seasons of waiting, and facing so many unanswered questions, you slowly began pulling away from our relationship. It did not happen all at once, and it did not happen in some big, dramatic fashion. It happened very quietly, just a little more silence taking over each day, and a little more emotional distance creeping in each night. You kept retreating into yourself until one specific day arrived where your spirit became so completely tired that even the simple act of speaking to me felt like an impossible chore. But my beloved child, even while you stopped talking to me, I want you to know that I never once stopped watching over you. I watched every single hidden tear that you cried in secret, the ones that nobody else in your life ever noticed or asked about. I saw every moment you locked yourself away in your room because you did not want anyone seeing how completely broken you truly felt on the inside. I saw the painful nights when intense anxiety kept your mind spinning and awake until the morning sun came up. I heard every single sigh of heavy frustration that escaped your lips when life became too heavy for you to carry all over again. I watched you carry massive emotional burdens that absolutely nobody around you could ever begin to understand. People only saw your outside appearance, but heaven saw your hidden pain. Heaven saw the silent, exhausting battles you never explained to a single soul because you were so terrified of becoming a burden to the people you love. And while you were silently falling apart from the weight of it all, I stayed right beside you through every single moment. You genuinely believed that your silence had pushed me away and created a gap I would not cross. But my child, absolutely nothing in this world could ever make me stop loving you. Even during those heavy moments when you felt completely spiritually numb and could not feel anything at all, I remained incredibly near to you. Even during the difficult seasons when your faith felt so weak that you thought it might vanish entirely, I stayed close by your side. Even during the dark nights when you questioned whether your prayers even mattered anymore or if they were just bouncing off the walls, heaven still listened carefully to every single whisper hidden inside your hurting heart. You mistakenly thought that silence meant separation, but your silence never changed my deep love for you. I have watched over you through every single painful season, through every emotional collapse you experienced, and through every terrifying moment where you nearly gave up on everything completely. And the very reason I brought you to this message today is because I absolutely refuse to let your pain silence your beautiful spirit forever. I know life has wounded you deeply, and I know that betrayal changed something fundamental inside your heart. I know that rejection made you question your true worth as a person, and I know that constant disappointment has exhausted your ability to keep hoping the way you used to do when you were younger. You kept trying so hard to stay strong for everybody else in your life, acting like the rock they could depend on, while you were quietly carrying a mountain of pain that became heavier and heavier with every passing season. There were so many moments when you just wanted someone to notice that you were not okay without you having to find the words to explain it to them. But people often miss the subtle signs because you became far too skilled at hiding your sadness behind forced smiles and hollow laughs. Yet heaven never missed a single, solitary moment of your life. I saw your breaking heart even when nobody else in your circle had a single clue. My beloved child, there were so many nights when you cried silently into your pillow after everyone else in the house had fallen fast asleep. Those were the nights when you replayed painful, agonizing memories over and over again inside your mind, wondering why your life had suddenly become so incredibly difficult and complicated. You questioned whether I still had a good plan for your future, and you questioned whether things would ever truly become better than they are right now. Sometimes, in your quietest moments of despair, you even questioned whether I was still close to you at all, or if I had abandoned you to fight these battles by yourself. But I need you to listen very carefully to me right now, because I need your weary spirit to hear this truth clearly. I was there during every single one of those moments. I sat right beside you during every emotional breakdown you had on the floor. I remained incredibly close during every moment your chest felt so tight and heavy with sadness that it was hard to take a deep breath. I stayed near you while fear whispered cruel lies into your ear, telling you that your life would never change and that you would always feel this way. You were never abandoned, my child. Not even for a second. The enemy wanted your silence because he knows that silence slowly creates a wide distance between wounded hearts and the healing they desperately need. He wanted disappointment to convince you that speaking to me no longer mattered. He wanted your physical and mental exhaustion to turn into permanent, lonely isolation. He wanted your deep pain to slowly harden your heart until you completely stopped expecting love, peace, restoration, and breakthroughs altogether. But I brought you here today because I am actively calling your heart back to me before hopelessness can grow any deeper into your soul. This message is not a form of punishment or a lecture about your lack of prayer. It is a rescue mission. It is heaven actively reaching down towards you while you quietly drown beneath a tidal wave of emotions that nobody else around you fully understands. I know there were moments when you almost gave up on everything completely. There were moments when you stopped expecting to ever hear good news again, and moments when simply waking up each morning already felt emotionally exhausting before the day had even started. You became so tired of carrying invisible pain around with you like a heavy suitcase. You got tired of fighting silent battles that nobody gave you credit for winning. You got tired of pretending everything was perfectly fine while you were internally struggling just to survive from one day to the next. And somewhere inside that massive valley of exhaustion, you stopped speaking to me the way you once did because you were terrified of experiencing another season of silence in return. But my beloved child, you must understand that my silence was never a sign of rejection. There were massive spiritual battles happening all around your life that your human eyes could not see. There were moments when I actively protected you from complete destruction that you never even realized was approaching you. There were dark nights when heaven literally held your fragile mind together, when you felt too overwhelmed to continue living. Please do not mistake your survival for mere coincidence or luck. The very reason you are still here on this earth, listening to these words today, is because my hand never once left your life. There were days when your spirit became so tired that you could barely drag your feet forward, yet somehow, against all odds, you survived. Somehow you woke up the next morning. Somehow you continued to breathe despite the suffocating heaviness inside your chest. That was not happening because of your strength alone. That was my grace actively carrying you through moments that should have completely destroyed you emotionally. And now, I am speaking directly into your silence because I want your heart to understand something incredibly important. You do not have to hide your true self from me anymore. You can finally come back to me, my beloved child. I want you to bring me your raw exhaustion. Bring me your deep disappointment. Bring me your hot anger, your confusion, your terrifying fears, your unanswered questions, and all of your hidden tears. Stop believing the lie that you must appear spiritually strong and perfect before you can approach me again. I already know every single broken, jagged part of your heart, and I still love you completely just as you are. I am not sitting here waiting to condemn you or judge you for becoming distant over this past season. I am waiting here to heal you. I am waiting to fully restore what pain has damaged inside your spirit. I am waiting to remind you that your personal story is absolutely not ending in heartbreak and defeat. Your silence has lasted long enough, and the defensive walls you built around your heart have stood for long enough. The fear, the emotional numbness, the crippling loneliness, and the exhaustion will not define your future forever. I have already written the very next chapter of your life, and I promise you that it does not end with you being broken, forgotten, and spiritually empty. It ends with profound healing. It ends with total restoration. It ends with beautiful peace returning to your chaotic heart and true joy returning to your weary spirit. One day, people are going to look at your life, and they will struggle to believe how much pain you once carried. Because the restoration I am bringing into your life will completely overshadow the suffering you survived. But first, I need your heart to come back to me fully and honestly. I do not want the version of you that is pretending to stay strong for the world. I do not want the guarded, walled-off version hiding behind a wall of silence. I want the real you. I want the tired you. I want the hurting, weeping version of you. I want the version of you that still secretly hopes, deep down in the dark, that life can become beautiful again even after everything that has happened to you. Because I am still right here, my beloved child. I never walked away from you. I never stopped listening for the sound of your voice. And no matter how completely silent you became, heaven never once stopped calling your name. There was a time in your past when speaking to me felt like the most natural thing in the world to you. You would talk to me during the quiet mornings while drinking your coffee, during long commutes, during moments of sudden fear, and during moments of exciting hope. You shared your heart openly because you truly believed I was listening closely to every single word that left your lips. But life slowly and brutally changed something inside of you. Pain entered into the deep places of your spirit that you did not know how to heal from on your own. Disappointment began stacking upon disappointment until your heart simply grew too tired to fight. You prayed for certain things with complete, pure faith, expecting me to move immediately. But the waiting seasons became much longer than you ever expected them to be. Some of those prayers seemed to go completely unanswered, and some of your deepest wounds stayed open far longer than you could endure comfortably. And little by little, without you even realizing the shift was happening, a thick silence began growing between us. It did not happen all at once in a sudden moment of rebellion. It happened very quietly and slowly. At first, your prayers simply became shorter because you were just too physically exhausted at the end of the day to find the right words. Then, certain nights passed where you fell fast asleep, completely emotionally drained, before you could even say a single word to me. Then, disappointment convinced your hurting heart that maybe silence hurt less than risking hope again. And eventually, you just stopped talking to me the way you used to because deep down inside, you were absolutely terrified of being disappointed one more time. My child, I saw every single moment this distance was forming between us. I saw how life slowly and systematically exhausted your spirit until choosing silence became much easier than choosing vulnerability. You never completely stopped believing in my existence or my power. That was never the true problem. The problem was that your deep pain convinced you to stop opening your heart up fully to me. You still carried faith somewhere deep inside your soul, but your trust had become deeply wounded. You began trying to protect yourself emotionally from further hurt, and you even started protecting yourself from me. You stopped bringing me certain specific prayers because the previous seasons of waiting had hurt far too much to repeat. You stopped dreaming openly because disappointment had made the act of hoping feel incredibly dangerous to your stability. You stopped expecting joy to show up because sadness had become such a familiar, predictable companion. And while the people around you continued to see your outward smile, heaven watched your inner spirit slowly growing quieter and quieter each day. My beloved child, please understand that your silence never made me angry with you. It broke my heart because I understood perfectly why it was happening. I knew all about the rejection that had wounded your confidence. I knew about the betrayal that made it feel almost impossible to trust anyone ever again. I knew about those long nights when the loneliness became so heavy that you literally had no strength left in your body to speak words. I knew the silent, agonizing battles that were taking place inside your thoughts, while absolutely nobody else noticed your profound emotional exhaustion. And during every single one of those moments, I remained right next to you, even while you were struggling just to feel my presence. There were nights when you just stared into the pitch-black darkness of your room, carrying massive questions that were simply too painful to ever say aloud to anyone. You wondered why your life had become so incredibly heavy and difficult to navigate. You wondered why people kept disappointing you repeatedly when you gave them your best. You wondered why your future looked so completely uncertain despite all of the prayers you had invested into it. And sometimes, you even wondered whether I still heard your voice at all or if you were completely on your own. But my beloved child, heaven never once stopped listening to you. Not a single time. Every single tear that you cried silently in the dark still reached my throne. Every sigh of exhaustion that left your chest still reached my ears. Every hidden fear that made your heart race still reached me. Even when your words completely disappeared, your pain was still speaking incredibly loudly in heaven. The enemy wanted that silence to stay because he knows that silence creates deep isolation. He knew that if disappointment could wound your heart deeply enough, you would eventually begin withdrawing emotionally from the exact place where your healing could actually be found. He wanted your exhaustion to grow until the act of prayer felt completely meaningless and empty to you. He wanted your sadness to convince you that keeping a distance from me was far safer than being vulnerable with me. But the enemy lied to you, my child. Your emotional healing was never meant to happen far away from my presence, and your total restoration was never meant to happen in isolation. That is exactly why I am interrupting your life with this message today, because heaven completely refuses to let silence destroy your spirit permanently. You became so incredibly used to surviving your pain quietly that eventually, that silence started to feel normal to you. You carried massive emotional burdens without telling a single soul because you were terrified of becoming too much for people to handle. And eventually, that exact same isolation crept into your relationship with me. You stopped bringing me your deepest, rawest emotions because a part of your mind wondered whether anything would truly change if you did. But my beloved child, I never once asked you to carry your heavy pain all by yourself. I never expected you to appear perfect or have it all together before speaking honestly with me. I wanted your real, unfiltered heart all along, even the broken and messy parts. I know there were moments when you felt completely spiritually numb inside. There were moments when worship music no longer moved your heart the same way it used to, and moments when praying felt like an empty ritual because your emotions were just too exhausted to respond. But that emotional numbness has never scared me away from you. I understood exactly what your spirit was enduring. I knew that survival mode had completely taken over your heart after you carried far too much pain for far too long. And still, through all of it, I stayed close because my love for you does not disappear during your weakest, darkest seasons. My beloved child, the silence between us is officially ending right now. Not because I ever stopped loving you before, but because your heart can simply no longer survive while being disconnected from my presence. You need a healing that is much deeper than any human comfort can ever provide. You need a peace that is far stronger than temporary distractions or busy schedules. You need a deep restoration that is capable of reaching the hidden, buried wounds that nobody else in your life fully understands. And that profound healing begins the exact moment you stop hiding your brokenness from me. Come back to me with complete honesty. Bring me your disappointment. Bring me your confusion. Bring me the hard questions you buried deep down inside because you were terrified of the answers. Bring me the tears you hide from everyone else in your life. Bring me the completely exhausted, worn-out version of yourself that no longer knows how to pretend that everything is okay. Because I am absolutely not rejecting you for becoming silent, my child. I am calling you back home to where you belong. Even during the moments when you completely stopped talking to me, I never once stopped watching over you. Not for a single second. I know there were nights when you felt completely invisible to the world. Nights when it seemed like absolutely nobody truly noticed or cared how much pain you were carrying deep inside your soul. You became so incredibly skilled at hiding your real emotions that people just assumed you were much stronger than you actually felt. They saw you functioning. They saw you smiling, working, and surviving. But they did not see the silent, violent battles taking place underneath your calm appearance. Yet, heaven saw absolutely everything. I saw every single hidden crack forming inside your fragile heart. I saw every moment your spirit felt exhausted far beyond what words could ever describe. I saw the tears you wiped away quickly when someone walked into the room, because you were just so tired of explaining your sadness to people who could only ever partially understand your pain. There were nights when your mind simply would not rest, no matter how physically exhausted your body felt. You lay awake for hours replaying old conversations, replaying disappointments, and replaying painful memories over and over again, while anxiety slowly drained away your last bits of peace. You kept asking yourself questions that nobody else could hear. You wondered why this had to happen to you, why life felt so incredibly heavy, and if things would ever truly change for the better. And even during those precise moments when your thoughts became entirely overwhelming, I remained right beside you in the quiet. Even when the pain was so heavy that you couldn't feel me there, I was beside you every single night, holding you together when you felt like falling apart. I know how lonely you felt, even in a crowded room. It is a different kind of hurt when you feel completely unseen and unknown by everyone around you. You laughed around others while silently feeling totally disconnected on the inside. You listened to people speak while carrying emotional storms that nobody around you even noticed. There were moments when you secretly wished with all your heart that someone would simply look you in the eyes and ask, "Are you really okay?" and actually mean it. But instead, you just carried your pain quietly because you feared becoming too much for others to handle emotionally. Yet heaven has never once considered your pain to be too much. I listened carefully to every single silent cry hidden beneath your outward display of strength. My beloved child, I saw the emotional exhaustion that nobody else could fully comprehend. I saw how incredibly tired you became from constantly fighting these battles inside your own mind. You tried so hard to stay positive and keep a good attitude, while secretly feeling completely drained by disappointment after disappointment. Some mornings you woke up already emotionally exhausted before the day had even given you a chance to start. Some nights you just cried because life simply became too overwhelming for your mind to process anymore. And still, despite everything you were carrying, you continued to show up for other people. You continued helping others, pouring into their lives while your own spirit was quietly begging for a moment of rest. You continued encouraging everyone around you while secretly wondering if anyone would ever notice your own deep pain. But I noticed it all, my child. Heaven noticed every single hidden burden you carried in total silence. I saw the financial stress that you rarely talked about openly with anyone. I saw the moments when bills, heavy responsibilities, and future uncertainty made your chest feel tight with fear. You tried to remain completely calm on the outside, while internally wondering how everything was possibly going to work out. You prayed quietly about needs you felt embarrassed discussing with friends or family. You worried constantly about your future while pretending to remain strong and steady. But your struggles never made you less valuable to me. Your long waiting seasons never meant that you were forgotten by heaven. I watched every single moment you made the choice to keep going despite uncertainty, trying its best to break your confidence. I know that betrayal changed something very deep inside your heart. There were people you trusted completely, people you let close to you, who ended up wounding you deeply. Some of them walked away during the exact seasons of your life when you needed love and support the most. Some misunderstood your pure intentions while you were genuinely trying your absolute best. Some judged your pain without ever understanding the battles you were fighting. And after dealing with enough of that heartbreak, you slowly stopped opening your heart fully to anyone because protecting yourself emotionally felt 1,000,000 times safer than risking another painful disappointment. But my beloved child, while people may have abandoned you, heaven remained right by your side. While others completely misunderstood you, I understood every single hidden part of your heart completely. I watched every emotional breakdown you hid from the rest of the world. I saw the moments when you locked yourself away in private because you no longer had the strength to pretend everything was okay. I heard the cries you silenced into your pillows late at night because you did not want anyone in the house hearing how broken you felt. I saw the shaking in your spirit during those terrifying moments when anxiety became completely overwhelming. I saw the numbness that entered your emotions after carrying sadness for far too long. There were even moments when you genuinely questioned whether your life would ever feel peaceful or normal again. But my child, even during those darkest, lowest moments, my love for you never weakened, not even a little bit. You thought your silence pushed me away, but the truth is that your deep pain pulled me even closer to you. I stayed beside you during every single sleepless night you endured. I stood near you during every panic-filled moment that stole your breath. I remained close during every silent breakdown. Even when you stopped speaking openly to me, I still perfectly understood the language of your tears. I still heard the prayers that were hidden inside your deep sighs. Heaven has never needed perfect, eloquent words from you to understand your suffering. Your heart spoke loudly to me, even during your total silence. The enemy desperately wanted you to believe that your brokenness made you completely unworthy of love, peace, and restoration. He wanted disappointment to convince you that things would never improve. He wanted your exhaustion to become your permanent identity for the rest of your days. But the entire reason you survived every single one of those painful seasons is because my hand remained firmly over your life the entire time. There were moments when you came much closer to giving up than anyone else in your life realizes. Moments when hopelessness whispered that nothing would ever change for you. Yet somehow, against all logic, you kept moving forward. Somehow you survived another difficult day. That was not a coincidence, my beloved child. That was my grace actively carrying you through storms that should have completely destroyed your spirit. You keep looking at yourself and seeing nothing but weakness because you remember the moments you cried on the floor. But heaven looks at you and sees incredible endurance. Heaven sees courage. Heaven sees a warrior who continued surviving despite emotional battles that would have crushed many others completely. Do not underestimate the immense strength it took for you to survive what you have been through. Do not minimize the pain you carried simply because nobody else fully saw it or acknowledged it. Heaven saw it all clearly. I know there were moments when you felt completely emotionally abandoned, moments when prayers seemed unanswered for so long that the silence itself became painful. There were moments when you wondered whether I still had any good plans left for your future at all. But my beloved child, silence has never meant absence. While you were hurting, I was actively protecting you from battles you never even saw happening. While you were waiting, I was arranging things behind the scenes of your life. While you felt completely forgotten, Heaven was still moving carefully around your future destiny. You could only see the immediate pain happening right in front of you, but I saw the beautiful restoration that was slowly approaching behind it. There were also so many moments when I protected you from complete destruction without you even realizing it. There were nights when your mind became dangerously overwhelmed, yet somehow, a strange peace slowly returned just enough for you to continue. There were dangerous situations that could have ended far worse than they did, but my hand intervened quietly to stop it. There were people whose true intentions would have damaged your future deeply, but I removed them from your life before greater harm could occur. You call some of those seasons painful, but heaven calls those exact same seasons protection. My beloved child, I never stopped watching over you because my love does not vanish during your broken seasons. Human love often weakens and changes when people become difficult, exhausted, emotional, or deeply wounded. But my love remains completely steady through every single version of you. I loved you during the nights you cried yourself to sleep. I loved you during the moments you doubted your own worth. And I loved you during the seasons you became completely distant and silent. I loved you during every emotional collapse and every hidden fear. Absolutely nothing about your brokenness ever changed my decision to stay right beside you. And now, I am speaking directly into your pain because I need your spirit to hear this truth clearly. Your suffering did not go unseen by me. Every single tear mattered. Every silent prayer mattered. Every painful night mattered immensely. Heaven recorded every single moment you thought nobody noticed your pain. And the exact same God who watched you survive your darkest nights is now preparing to fully restore the parts of your heart that suffering tried to destroy. Your story is absolutely not ending in silence, my beloved child. The heavy tears you carried in hidden places will not be wasted. I never stopped watching over you, and I never will. Pain has changed you in ways that nobody else in your life fully understands. There was an older version of you that once laughed much more freely, trusted people much more easily, hoped much more boldly, and loved without constantly fearing immediate disappointment. But life wounded your spirit deeply. Betrayal entered into places inside your heart that once felt completely safe. Rejection slowly damaged your inner confidence. Disappointment kept arriving at your doorstep before your old wounds even had a chance to finish healing. And little by little, you became someone who learned how to merely survive emotionally instead of someone who still knew how to rest peacefully inside true joy. I saw every single part of that transformation happen to you. I saw how suffering slowly changed the way you looked at people, the way you looked at yourself, and even the way you looked at me. You did not become guarded overnight. It happened one painful moment at a time, one heartbreak at a time, one unanswered prayer at a time, and one betrayal at a time. You trusted in people who eventually walked away from you when things got hard. You gave your complete loyalty to people who repaid you with nothing but cold silence. You carried others through their hardest, darkest seasons while secretly hoping that someone would notice your own deep pain, too. But many times, when you needed comfort and support the most, you found yourself standing completely emotionally alone. And after dealing with enough of that disappointment, your spirit slowly stopped expecting consistency from anyone at all. You became incredibly careful, self-reliant, and fiercely protective of your peace. You stopped speaking about your deepest, truest feelings because your life experience had taught you that vulnerability almost always ended in intense pain. My beloved child, I know that rejection wounded you deeply. Some people overlooked your heart completely while celebrating others all around you. Some never appreciated the massive sacrifices you quietly made for them behind the scenes. Some only noticed you or reached out when they needed something from you. And because that rejection happened repeatedly, you slowly started questioning your own worth as a person. You wondered whether something was fundamentally wrong with you, why people kept leaving your life, and why love often felt so temporary and fragile. But I need you to listen carefully to me right now. Rejection from flawed human beings never changes your true value in heaven. Human misunderstanding never cancels out your divine purpose. People may fail to recognize your incredible worth, But I have always known exactly who you are. I know that financial pressure has exhausted your spirit as well. There were difficult seasons when you felt completely trapped between your daily responsibilities and your deep fears. Bills kept increasing while new opportunities seemed completely delayed. You smiled around others while silently carrying a mountain of stress that was heavy enough to steal away your sleep night after night. Sometimes you prayed about money so often that eventually, sheer exhaustion made you stop speaking about it altogether because hoping for a breakthrough felt too painful. But my child, I saw every single moment you worried quietly about your financial future. I saw how hard you fought to stay calm while internally feeling completely overwhelmed by uncertainty. And even during those difficult, stressful seasons, I never once abandoned you. Pain also completely changed the way you trust people emotionally. You stopped opening your heart fully because too many deep wounds taught you that attachment often ended in devastating heartbreak. You became incredibly careful with your words, careful with your emotions, and careful with your expectations. You built massive, invisible walls around your spirit because survival mode taught you that maintaining distance sometimes felt much safer than being vulnerable. But those exact walls that protected you from pain also slowly isolated you from the healing you need. The enemy wanted your heartbreak to become a permanent emotional separation from other people, from deep peace, and eventually even from me. My beloved child, there were moments when your pain became so heavy that you barely recognized the person staring back at you in the mirror anymore. You looked at yourself and saw nothing but deep exhaustion instead of joy. You saw profound sadness hidden behind tired eyes. You saw someone who was merely surviving life instead of truly living it. And what hurt the most was that nobody around you fully realized how deeply wounded you actually felt on the inside. People always expected strength from you because you became so incredibly skilled at carrying your pain quietly without complaining. But carrying pain quietly has never meant that you were not hurting deeply inside your soul. I know there were nights when your own thoughts became your greatest, most terrifying battle. You replayed painful memories repeatedly, trying to make sense of why certain things happened the way they did. You questioned your past decisions, you questioned your future, and sometimes you even questioned whether happiness would ever truly return to your life again. Anxiety became a heavy blanket, and fear became all too familiar. Because disappointment happened repeatedly, your spirit slowly stopped expecting good things to happen. Hope became incredibly difficult because your previous pain taught you to prepare for heartbreak instead of preparing for a breakthrough. But my beloved child, pain has never had permission to define your final identity. Yes, suffering changed you. Yes, heartbreak affected your spirit deeply. Yes, betrayal left real scars. But those scars do not tell the full story of who you are becoming. The enemy wanted your pain to harden your heart permanently, your disappointments to silence your dreams forever, and survival mode to replace intimacy, faith, joy, and peace completely. But I never intended for your brokenness to become your permanent home. You became emotionally exhausted because you carried far too much for far too long without receiving any true healing. You kept trying to function normally while your spirit was quietly begging for rest. There were days when simply surviving emotionally felt like the hardest work in the world. Some mornings you woke up already tired because your mind never truly rested during the night. And still, despite everything happening inside of you, you continued trying. You continued showing up for your responsibilities, helping others, and moving forward even while carrying invisible pain. Heaven saw every single hidden act of endurance. I know there were moments when you felt angry, too. Angry at the people who hurt you, angry at situations that seemed completely unfair, and sometimes even angry at me because my silence felt painful while you desperately needed answers. But my child, I was never once offended by your honest emotions. I understood your wounded heart completely. I knew you were not becoming distant because you stopped caring about me. You became distant because pain completely exhausted your ability to stay emotionally open without fear. There were moments when you secretly wondered whether your best days had already passed you by. You looked at your life and saw nothing but broken pieces instead of future possibilities. You wondered whether too much damage had already happened emotionally for things to ever fully heal again. But hear me carefully now. I specialize in restoring hearts that believe they are completely beyond repair. I rebuild lives that pain tried to destroy entirely. I bring deep peace back into spirits that became exhausted from carrying silent sorrow for too long. My beloved child, I need you to understand something deeply important right now. The fact that pain changed you does not mean that pain defeated you. You are still here today. You are still breathing. You are still listening to my voice right now. That means your story is absolutely not over. The enemy attacked your peace because he feared your future. He attacked your confidence because he feared your true calling. He attacked your hope because he feared the incredible strength you would eventually discover through your survival. Despite everything you endured, heaven never once released its grip on your life. You may feel emotionally scarred right now, but those scars are proof of your survival, not proof of your defeat. Every single painful season you survived created a deep strength inside your spirit that comfort alone could never produce. You became wiser, more discerning, more compassionate toward the pain of others, and more aware of what truly matters in this life. Yes, suffering changed you, but it also prepared parts of your spirit for the next beautiful chapter when I'm riding over your life. The version of you that entered those painful seasons is not the same version listening to me right now. You have survived heartbreak that should have destroyed your ability to trust completely. You survived loneliness that should have buried your hope forever. You survived emotional exhaustion that should have stolen your future entirely. And because you survived, heaven is currently preparing a restoration that is far greater than the suffering you carried. So stop believing the lie that pain ruined your life permanently. Pain wounded you, but it did not cancel your destiny. Suffering changed you, but it did not remove my hand from your future. You are still mine, my beloved child, and the same God who watched pain reshape your heart is now preparing to heal, restore, and rebuild every single broken part that suffering tried to destroy.